Why did Musk and Farage fall out?
So I think at the heart of it, there are a couple of things. The trigger point was Farage saying that Tommy Robinson deserved to be in prison, and Musk claiming, in my view correctly, that Tommy Robinson was a political prisoner. And actually, if you look at I don't know if you want to have this debate about Tommy Robinson now, but if you look at the facts...
I'm big on Tommy. I'm a big fan of Tommy.
But if you look at the facts, Tommy Robinson was involved in a civil action where he had breached a civil action injunction, an injunction imposed on him by a civil court. And normally that would be, the penalty for doing that would be a fine or some kind of sanction, and you'd be brought back to court and, you'd have your knuckles rapped by the judiciary. But the Attorney General, which is a political appointment, took it upon himself to get involved. And in order for the Attorney General to get involved, he has to satisfy himself that this is a case of national importance. So Tommy Robinson's civil action, in the Attorney General's mind, was of national importance. And having inserted himself into the case, he effectively elevated it to a criminal level by saying that Tommy Robinson's in contempt of court and should have the maximum penalty.
Imprisoned in solitary for
imprisoned.
A year.
I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. So whether or not you like Tommy Robinson, I know you like him, but whether or not you do, and Farage clearly does not, is irrelevant. The fact is he was a political prisoner because it was a politician who elevated his case from being a civil case effectively to a criminal one.
That's interesting.
Are you with me? It's an open and shut debate. And so Farage, who loathes Tommy Robinson, said he deserves to be in prison and he's a wife beater and all this kind of thing. And that obviously got Musk's.
Did he call him a wife beater?
He has accused him of, it's either being a wife beater. I've got to be careful not
That's
to be
why
sued.
I ask. Yeah.
Either a wife beater or a woman beater, one of the two.
Is there evidence for that?
Well, Tommy Robinson absolutely denies it. I think Farage may have even said, you'll have to fact check me, may have even said that he was arrested for it. Perhaps it can be fact checked while we're on.
Robinson's talked about this, but he has a criminal record, a list as long as your arm, violence against women.
But Tommy Robinson says he hasn't been arrested for it. I'm sure that if he hasn't been arrested for it, he hasn't been arrested for it. So, Farage, look, he detests Tommy Robinson, and that's fine. That's Farage's prerogative. But it's not Farage's prerogative to not see the issue clearly. And actually, I'd say Farage, of all politicians, who ostensibly stands on the ticket of freedom of speech, stands on a ticket for the restitution of the United Kingdom, should see through the lawfare used by the state against people like Tommy Robinson. It's critical that politicians like Farage see it, because if he doesn't, there's literally no hope, which is where the conversation started.
It's legally it's a very complicated one, because I do get the point that it was, I think, millions and millions of people saw the video he was told not to put out and then put out.
I think 160 million. Yes. I mean, that's huge.
It's like more people than his population. I mean, it's around the world, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Tommy swears blind, and he'll swear blind, off record, on record, whatever. He will tell you these people were being honest about the situation regarding the boy. I have to be careful because I don't want to end up in solitary either. But that's his opinion, and he's putting out what is his journalism. I think the judge said, these people were not credible who said the things about the boy, and so you got to go to prison for a year in solitary. Yeah. It seems nuts.
Yeah. So, going to prison was because he was in contempt of court, because he showed the film when it was injuncted and he was prohibited from doing it. So, his incarceration doesn't turn on whether the film was right or wrong, or the rights and wrongs of the situation.
No. But the civil case in the first place was about that, wasn't
it? The first case was all about that. But the fact that he was elevated by the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, who I mean. He's a horrible man. He represented Jerry Adams.
That's your opinion.
It is a fact that Lord Hermer is a horrible man.
Those are not necessarily the views of. I'm being very careful. I don't want to get.
No, that's well. People can sue me for having the view that I think.
Sue Ben and not Heretics. I don't know how it works.
Oh, I see. Forgive me. I don't want to get your channel into trouble.
Yes.
But no, he is. Look. Let me just tell you what he's done. He's represented Gerry Adams. He's made the case for the Caribbean islands to claim reparations for the slave trade against the United Kingdom. Our Attorney General is promoting cases against the country by foreign entities. It's completely wrong. He represented illegal migrants, trying to resettle them from Chagos into the United Kingdom. He promoted the Chagos deal itself, handing over Chagos to Mauritius. He tried to change the Legacy Act, which is an act of parliament that prohibited people like Gerry Adams bringing a case against the British government because they were wrongly imprisoned back in whenever. He tried to change the Legacy Act so that Gerry Adams could bring a case against the British government. This is a man who, in my opinion, not Heretics' opinion, but in my opinion, shouldn't be anywhere near public office. And he is the man who effectively put Tommy Robinson in jail.
Wow. I think a lot of people didn't know this. I think that's why it's so interesting speaking with you, because I think you have this insider, well, not necessarily insider, but you have a more comprehensive understanding of the full facts. And I think that's going to surprise a lot of people. I mean, they're not surprised that this was a politically motivated situation, but that it was that linked in that way. Yeah,
but Farage sort of got it. I'm sure Farage understands it. Anyway, so that was the first bust up, I think, between Musk and Farage, because Farage couldn't see it. And then I think the other thing that must have really, I do not have this from Elon Musk, but I'm just surmising that, to have someone say, well, I'm going to get $100 million from Elon Musk when actually $100 million was never offered, must probably irritate him a little bit.
In the interest of balance here, it is probably fair to say, or is it fair to say, that Nigel Farage has been quite possibly the most influential politician Nigel Farage has been the most influential man in our politics in the last 50 years.
We would not have got the referendum in 2016 had it not been for Nigel Farage. Absolute fact. The tragedy is that having won that referendum, that's when the country really needed Nigel Farage to come forward and fight for a vision, for a plan of a post-EU membership United Kingdom. What is the plan? We've still never really had a plan. I mean, I've got a perfect vision of what it means to be a post-EU member state. But the plan was not fought for